Hey guys and girls, my name is Alan and welcome to today's gameplay commentary. So I'm going to do exactly what I did last Saturday and continue my review of E3 2018.
You know professionalism when you see it.
Of course I do, you know me. Basically, so last week I did cover EA and that video is actually fairly decent. Like I talked about quite a lot of stuff in that video. Check it out, I'll link it on screen. I'll also link it in the description below. But today I'm going to be covering the two, well, if you're into Sony and Microsoft, then this is considered the big one, the clash of the two big ones, Sony and Microsoft. Obviously, there are several other big conferences, and you might be interested in one developer, or maybe you're a Nintendo fan, and obviously the Switch is the big one for you. But as a PlayStation person, not that I'm a massive fanboy or anything, but as a PlayStation person, I own a PS4, PS3. I obviously care about the Sony press conference, and there's always a bit of rivalry between Sony and Microsoft, a bit of banter, and obviously there are some fanboys out there who just crap on one or the other franchise for the sake of doing so. I'm not that sort of person. I'd like to think that I'm kind of neutral. Like obviously I prefer PlayStation, and that's why I bought a PS4. But I'm not petty enough to badmouth an Xbox game just because it's on Xbox without knowing anything about it. That's not the sort of person I am. Anyway, so I'm going to get straight into it because there's a lot to talk about and the video is not that long. Once again, I'm using some legacy gameplay, and actually this gameplay is in fact very, very old. One of my earliest gameplays on Uncharted 4 multiplayer, and so the first part is going to be Command, the second part is going to be a Plunder game, as I recorded very, very early on in my multiplayer progress for Uncharted 4. But obviously I think the performances are pretty decent, otherwise I wouldn't have included them as I normally do. Right, so we're going to start with Sony because that's the one that I watched first. I don't actually know if they released first, but that's the one I watched first, therefore I'm going to talk about it first. So it started off a little bit weird. They were in this sort of tent and they created sort of a church theme, and I kind of guessed what it was going to be about before it really started. And then eventually, once the crowd settled, they brought out this musician who played an instrument. I can't really tell you what the instrument was, sort of like a banjo slash guitar. It probably wasn't, it's probably neither of those things, but that's my interpretation of it. Anyway, he played some music and straight away I got a sense of The Last of Us, and lo and behold, it was The Last of Us. Now they opened with a trailer, and I said to myself that I was going to mute it and not watch any of it. I did mute it, I didn't watch any of the cutscene, but then as soon as the action started, they did show a piece of gameplay. Ellie going through some forest and taking out some bad guys. I just couldn't resist. I had to unmute it, I had to watch it, and it's kind of a generic scene, to be honest. I couldn't tell you, I imagine that sort of scenery is going to feature quite a lot in the game. I get the sense it's more of just showing off the, Ellie's new abilities and her combat style and that sort of thing, rather than actually talking about the story. That's what the trailer was for. And you might have heard quite a lot about it by now, and a certain something happens. I'm not going to spoil it in case you haven't seen it, or if you don't want to watch it, just like I didn't want to watch it. But unfortunately, I found out about it because Twitter was going mental over it, and you probably heard about it by now as well. But I played the DLC, so the event wasn't that surprising and it wasn't really a big thing for me. Having said that, even if I hadn't played the DLC and I'd found out about this, it's not a talking point for me. Like I play for the game, I don't care about the politics and all the rest of it. But some people really do, and it kind of surprises me. And I don't know, maybe they're just not used to that sort of thing. But I'm not to say that I play games that feature that all the time, but I'm just saying I don't really care. Like that's not the reason why I play any of the games that I play. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. The gameplay, as expected, was pretty gory, pretty brutal at times. Trademark The Last of Us, basically. And obviously, your main character is Ellie this time around. She's all grown up. I'll tell you that much for free, but you've probably seen the trailers and the posters and all the rest. It's not really much of a spoiler, in my opinion. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to it. I'm thinking I will play through The Last of Us again before this comes out. I don't think I caught a date for release, so I'm guessing they haven't put it down in stone yet, which is fine. As I've been predicting for the past year or so, I don't think it's going to come out this year at all. I think it's going to come out next year at the earliest. It might even come out the year after, but that's pushing it in my opinion. Probably Christmas time, maybe sometime autumn, late summer. Because obviously they've been working on the game for a few years now, and they've showed off some gameplay at E3, which means the game must be, I would hope, near completion by this point. Now, because the audience were in this sort of tent thing to start things off, they had to then transition back to the main stage where they were actually doing the conference. So that's a bit weird. They wasted like 5 minutes for the audience for doing that, and I don't really understand. Don't get me wrong, if you're there and you enjoyed the tent scene thing, I guess it'd be kind of cool. However, if you're at home and you're watching and suddenly there's 5 minutes of just they palmed it off onto a couple of other presenters who've showed some trailers and stuff, and it wasn't that interesting, the trailers. One of the things that stood out was Call of Duty Black Ops 4. And again, even though Sony have a partnership with Call of Duty again this year, some did say it was going to end, but it hasn't. all they did was show off a trailer, and it was a bit of a letdown. Like, it's a big stage, and I don't understand why Call of Duty haven't taken advantage of this. Like, so I said it last year in my review for Sony's thing, because they had a trailer for the new Call of Duty game, but they didn't actually show anything interesting off. Like, nothing was particularly new. Okay, the one this time around had a bit of information, but the actual footage itself was nothing spectacular. And if it's a big stage like a Sony press conference and big franchise like Call of Duty, you think they'd do something cool together, you know, really get the crowd talking. Just a trailer, nothing special. Anyway, if you haven't heard by now, Black Ops 4 will have 4 remastered maps from some of the original Black Ops games, and they are as follows. So you've got Jungle, which returns from Black Ops 1. I do remember that map quite fondly. Slums, Black Ops 2, pretty intense objective-based game modes. Summit from Black Ops 1, but then also remastered for Black Ops 2 already, so this will feature in 3 Black Ops games now. I remember that map quite fondly because, again, I quite enjoyed that map. CQC, kind of intense. Sometimes players didn't know what they were doing, and you could absolutely ruffle stomp, and it was kind of cool. I remember streaks on that map as well. You could just napalm like the back of the map or the front of the map and just get mad streaks. And then another classic, which again sticks out in my mind, for I managed to get so many decent streaks on this map, Firing Range. This was of course remastered for Black Ops 2 as well, but I didn't buy any of the DLC maps for Black Ops 2, so I haven't really played these maps since Black Ops 1. And then it's kind of obvious, I mean, if you hadn't guessed, Nuketown is going to be made again for Black Ops 4. That means it's been featured in every single Black Ops game to date. And it's going to be free, but it's going to be released post-launch. So the 4 maps I just talked about, they will feature on the game, I think from day 1 is what they said. But Nuketown will feature afterwards as a free DLC update. I think like they did with 2 and 3, to be honest with you. And that leads me to believe that that's probably going to be like a pre-order bonus at the start of the launch of Black Ops 4. No confirmation yet. I'm just assuming that it will be following the trend of previous Black Ops games. So after this segment with various trailers, the Black Ops 1 was the only one that was notable for me, so that's why I talked about it. They moved back onto the stage and they started doing presentations again. And the first big game they talked about was Ghost of Tsushima. I think I might have butchered that name, but it was a samurai sort of game, and I saw 1 or 2 during the course of E3, and I'll talk about these in obviously the other conferences. So maybe that's a thing now, maybe it's a trend, samurai games. Seemed okay, not something I'd play personally, but the artwork and the stuff like that, I guess some people would enjoy it. So if you're interested in I guess it's a fighting game set in ancient Japan, then this is something to look out for. Moving on to the next one, which is called Control. I can't really describe that game to you. It was just weird, very, very weird. And then a big surprise, was not expecting this. There's going to be a remake of Resident Evil 2 featuring obviously Leon, and it looks good. Like, I'm excited for this game. Like, I thought that they would just remaster sort of the old version like they did with number 1, but this is a proper remake, and they've updated the graphics. I think they've updated the combat mechanics as well, so really looking forward to that one. That's really going to be cool to see in action. Then the next thing they talked about was Kingdom Hearts 3 a little bit. Big trailer for that one. I'm not a massive fan, to be honest with you, but if you like those sort of games, then it's on the way. Obviously it's been delayed and delayed and delayed, but it's on the way, and there's quite a host of characters in there. The scene that we saw featured the cast of Frozen, which obviously will appeal to a lot of kids and a lot of adults as well, I would imagine. Then they moved on to the other big sort of Sony exclusive, and that's Death Stranding. The only reason I really care about this game is because it's made by Hideo Kojima, who obviously made the Metal Gear Solid games. But in terms of actually this game, I don't think I'm that interested in it. It looks very, very, very weird. I mean, watch the trailer for yourself. I'm just a bit freaked out by it, to be honest with you. Doesn't seem like my sort of game. I still don't fully understand what the game's going to be about. But I'd said, because it's made by Hideo Kojima, it's something I'm interested in. But will I end up playing it? Will I end up getting it? I highly doubt it at this point. And then just like last year, if I remember correctly, they've closed off this year with another Spider-Man game. Now, I don't know if it's the same Spider-Man game or it's a different one. I wasn't quite sure about it. I'm not a massive fan of the franchise, but last year's Spider-Man game looked kind of interesting. This year's Spider-Man, I mean, it was okay, but again, I'm not really into that sort of thing, so it wasn't a massive draw for me. But that's what they chose to end with, and it was quite a long segment, just like it was last year with the other Spider-Man. And that was pretty much it for the Sony conference. I mean, as I said, there were some other minor trailers that they showed off and stuff like that, but in terms of the main talking points, those were it. The ones I've covered, those were it. And if I'm being quite honest, it was kind of a boring conference. The only thing that was really interesting for me was Resident Evil 2, which I didn't expect at all, and then The Last of Us 2, which obviously I expected, and I expected not to watch any of it. So really the only game out of those was Resident Evil 2, out of the entire conference. I mean, as I said, Call of Duty, shame they didn't show anything off. Would have been a perfect opportunity in my opinion, just like last year they wasted it. And then some other games which have some big names behind them, but in terms of appeal for me, not so much. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on the Sony press conference. Didn't have time at all to touch the Microsoft one. I'll have to do it for another video, and I'll hopefully try and get that one up during the week because I don't want to leave it till next Saturday. E3 is obviously finished a few days ago now, so I don't want to drag it out any longer than I need to. You know, I'm a little bit disappointed with Sony this year. I thought it was, as I said, a bit of a boring, bit of a poor presentation. I think it's just because of me more than anything else. I don't know. A lot of the games they talked about and stuff like that, a lot of the trailers, I just wasn't really interested in. And the two big ones that I were interested in, one of them I only knew about, and the other one was a nice surprise. But that doesn't, you know, one game doesn't make an entire conference. So I don't know. Let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts are on the Sony press conference. What was your highlight from it? And you know, let me know if there was anything that you expected to see but didn't see. For me, as I said, I just expected The Last of Us, and obviously it showed up, and that was about it, and that's anything I really cared about, and I didn't watch any of it, really. I just watched the gameplay and another trailer, but Twitter managed to ruin it for me. Thanks a lot, people. One thing I forgot to talk about actually during the Call of Duty segment was that they did announce, because of their partnership, their celebration of the partnership, this month's free PS Plus game will feature Call of Duty Black Ops 3. So if you don't already have it, I already have the disc version, but if you want to download it as the digital version, you can do it from the PSN store right now, and it'll be free if you own PlayStation Plus. So that's kind of a nice sort of bonus for Call of Duty fans. And that will run into the end of the month, so don't delay. You've only got about a week left until the end of the month, and obviously the cycle of the next games will kick in. Also, they did talk about the fact that if you pre-order Black Ops 4, I don't remember what version it was. I don't know if it's all versions or maybe the deluxe version. You do get a free map pack for Black Ops 3 featuring the exact same maps that were talked about for Black Ops 4, which is a little bit weird. I'm not too sure how that works. They're basically sending you the same map pack twice. But yeah, I mean, if you're interested in DLC for Black Ops 3, check it out. Obviously, if you're pre-ordering Black Ops 4 anyway, then it's a no-brainer to get the map pack free of charge. Right, so that'll do it for today's video. As I said, I didn't manage to talk about Microsoft at all, but I will cover that in the next video for sure. Hopefully I'll get that up during the week, as I said. But yeah, until next time, if you enjoyed the content, consider tapping that like button. I really do appreciate it. And as always, if you've got any thoughts on the regarding anything I've talked about today, gameplay, or anything about the Sony press conference, do let me know in the comment section below. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. But until next time, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, take care, and I will see you later.
And now it's hard to breathe.